Marauders for the Month by lishiee. Chapter 18. Sunday Workday. Mary, stop glaring at Marlene. She freaking started it. Lily sighed and rubbed her hands over her face. Remus shared the same exasperated look that she knew she was sporting on her face. All morning, the two girls had been glaring at each other, bickering if they were close enough. Remus and Lily had wrangled Mary over to their table. The other three boys wrangled Marlene to theirs. All of them decided it was best to keep them apart right now, especially after they shared that they had detention all week. Come on then, Lily began, sliding her work over to Mary's spot. What? Mary asked, breaking her staring contest with Marlene. We're switching spots. Mary opened her mouth immediately to retort, but Lily was quick to stop her. You can glare at her during your full week of detention, Mary. I don't want to deal with it. The two girls switched spots, Lily now facing Marlene, who suddenly was no longer glaring. Perfect. All of the Gryffindor 7th years had been huddled up in the library since breakfast. Any studying had been put off until today, so they could spend all day in Hogsmeade. Lily, Remus, and James were the only ones taking their studying seriously, though. Mary was at least staying quiet, unlike the other table. Lily was finishing up her data essay by the time James migrated to the table. Can't focus over there, James? Remus chuckled, thumbing through one of his textbooks. Sadly, James smiled weakly. His hair was even messier than usual. Lily wasn't the only one getting torn to pieces by head girl duties. James and his head boy duties were not doing any better. He also had Quidditch on top of all that. Lily has no idea how he spends most days looking put together and looking completely stress-free. She could feel her stress coated around her like smog. Once she had gotten to the library this morning and made a to-do list, she realized how badly off she was. The last time she had done homework was Friday morning, and even then it was very minimal. She still had assignments from 3 of her classes by the time lunch rolled around. Remus and James were still deep into studying by then too. Lily had been so entrenched in her homework that she barely registered why the library had gone silent. She assumed that maybe Sirius and Marlene had run out of things to talk about. The appearance of a feast on the other table said otherwise and caught her attention, pulling her back to reality. We got enough for you guys, Marlene grinned, grabbing a chicken leg to munch on. Remus paused his studies immediately at the sight of food, levitating half of the food over to their table. Lily conjured a plate and grabbed a few things before Remus went to town, the rest of the table following suit. So, what do you all have to do? So what would you have to do, Lily? Mary asked, shutting one of her textbooks and shoving it to the side. The girls seemed to be done with homework for the time being. Everything but data. Lily paused to shove a spoonful of beans into her mouth. So, alchemy, arithmancy, and potions. Yuck, Mary grimaced. Putrid, James added. Lily rolled her eyes. They weren't entirely wrong, but she could be way worse off. And anyway, the two of them only had 3 newts. They barely were doing much homework these days. Homework for 4 classes was appalling to them. After scarfing her food down, as Remus does, Lily pulled out the rest of her homework and focused. Preferably, she wanted to get all of her homework done today, but if that couldn't happen, then she needed arithmancy and alchemy done. She bent over and got to work, scribbling out a few equations for arithmancy. For some god-awful reason, her professor gave them loads of homework this weekend. This was the longest homework she had gotten for this class all year. They were also assigned an essay. Pushing her thoughts off to the side, Lily opened her textbook. She had 9 hours. That should be enough. There was no way it was enough. Lily was barely halfway through alchemy when half of their group wandered off to dinner, deciding they were done for the night. Lily, Remus, and James were the only ones remaining, having gotten more stressed as each hour ticked by. Remus's somewhat laid-back aura was snapped in half. James's hair gone even messier. Lily knew she didn't look any better. The nails she'd been growing out were all gone. Her alchemy homework wasn't making it any better. She had her homework finished, but she still had to teach herself some of the new things. At a glance, the new topic looked to be more difficult than the new ones usually were. Lily was on the verge of giving up. Her energy was drained, and doing all of this homework tomorrow seemed like the best idea. The sound of the library door opening and a familiar voice flooding the space made her mood do a 180. The group sauntered to the back and stopped at the sight of the 3 Gryffindors. "Bloody hell, you lot look fucking terrible," Dorcas chuckled, taking in the scene before her. Remus and James glanced up, finally noticing the group. "Reggie!" James beamed up, his mood changing immediately, just as Lily said. Regulus looked down at James with his arms crossed, a smile tugging at his lips. Dorcas took the seat next to Remus, scooting closer to look at his homework. Lily observed the 2 of them, watching them banter back and forth. James was doing the same until Regulus grabbed the arm of his shirt and tugged him up, leading him to the shelves. This open spot allowed the last person to sit down. Pandora took the seat next to Lily and smiled. Lily immediately felt her lips upturn. "What are you doing?" Pandora tucked a loose curl behind her ear, tilting her head to the side to glance at Lily's paper. Lily forgot to respond, too busy watching Pandora bite and play with her lips while reading. Pandora glanced up after a moment of silence. She caught Lily's eye and smiled softly at her. Lily thought her heart was going to jump out of her chest. Pandora's hair right now looked absolutely angelic. Her curls were delicate and pulled up into a loose bun. The strands that had fallen out framed her face so nicely. There were hairpins littered throughout as well, shimmering when the light hit them just right. And don't even get her started on how Pandora's lips looked. "Is it alchemy then?" Pandora asked, amusement bleeding into her features. Lily snapped out of her trance, her pale skin tinting easily from embarrassment. "The assignment." Pandora reached her hand out and tapped the paper, showing off all the bangles and rings covering her arms and hands. It took all of Lily's self-control to stay on task. Yeah, it's just reading though. I've got to teach myself some new stuff." Pandora hummed in acknowledgement, running her fingers over her lips before leaning back in the chair and observing Lily. Lily tried to focus back on her work. She really did, but how was she supposed to focus when Pandora was staring at her the way she was? Her gaze was extremely distracting. Lily felt like Pandora was breaking her open and staring into her soul, trying to figure her out. "Dora?" Dorcas snapped her fingers at the blonde. Pandora let her gaze linger on Lily for a second before slowly turning her head and then eyes to Dorcas. "Let the girl study in peace. Stop staring at her so intently, yeah?" Remus reached into his bag and grabbed a book out, sliding it across the table to Pandora. The girl threw Remus a smile before picking up the book and flipping through the pages. Dorcas and Remus fell back into their chatter for a minute until Dorcas addressed the group again. "Where's Regulus?" Dorcas asked. Lily saw Remus and Pandora make eye contact for a split second before looking back at their work. She glanced between the 2 of them before answering. "I'm pretty sure he pulled James off into the shelves." "What?" Dorcas's face split into a grin. "Homework, Dorcas. Homework!" Pandora chided. Dorcas threw her hands up in mock offense, the smirk not even close to fading. Within seconds, everyone went back to their work, dropping the subject. Now that Pandora was silently reading, Lily had an easier time doing her work. Every once in a while, she'd glance up and watch the other girl. She looked so good that Lily couldn't help but sneak a glance. James and Regulus showed back up when Lily had a few pages of reading left. At this point, Lily only wanted to finish her alchemy. She had Monday and Tuesday nights to do potions. Dorcas and Remus willingly gave up their seats to the 2 boys and threw out a pathetic excuse. They headed off and told everyone they'd be back. James went back to doing his homework, looking the slightest bit flustered. Regulus and Pandora scooted their chairs together and whispered to each other. Lily finally had time to finish her reading. When she got to the final page, she was reading extremely fast, scrolling out the last of her notes. Lily sighed out in relief when she read the last word, allowing herself to slump forward on the desk. It was so comfortable. Her hand was cramped up, and it felt like if she moved it 1 more inch, it would fall right off. "You finally done, Lily?" Regulus asked. Lily groaned in response, not being able to do much else right now. Pandora giggled, scooting her chair over a little to run her hand through Lily's hair. The girl felt the start of a shiver building up in her spine. Thankfully, Pandora removed her hands before Lily lost her mind. Lily quietly breathed against the table, listening to the scratching of James's quill against the parchment. He was still flipping through textbooks and asking the occasional question from the 2 sick years. Regulus was the one who answered most of his questions, Pandora remaining mostly silent. Dorcas and Remus's entrance was marked by the falling of books onto the ground. By now, it had to be 9 p.m., meaning they had to leave soon. It also meant that Dorcas and Remus shouldn't have eyes so bloodshot. Lily glanced up as Remus stumbled around to pick up the books, Dorcas standing off to the side giggling at him. "Are you too fucking high?" Regulus deadpanned. This only set the two off into even more giggling. Lily had not heard Remus giggle so much since the 4th year. It was an interesting sound, with his voice so deep now. Regulus turned to Pandora, arching his eyebrow at her. "It's not my fault if Dorcas snooped around my room," she shrugged. "It's your weed," Lily gasped. Pandora turned to look at her. Lily's words died on her tongue. "Maybe," Pandora smirked. Lily nodded her head and shoved her textbook into her bag. It was honestly embarrassing how flustered she was getting over Pandora just looking at her today. Pandora needs to start wearing her hair down. Maybe just chop it all off. Let's get back to the common rooms before Prince kicks us out. James glanced up and nodded his head, following Lily in packing up. Regulus and Pandora packed up for Remus, seeing as he could barely walk a few steps without bursting into a giggling fit. Lily isn't sure how much they smoked, but it was way too much. The group trudged through the halls, shushing Dorcas and Remus when they got too rowdy. Lily wasn't sure when the two of them got this close. Matter of fact, Lily wasn't sure when Remus had gotten so close to any of the Slytherins. Any time they ran into the group, Remus was always so comfortable with them. Comfortable enough to get high with them, too. Lily waved goodbye to Pandora as they split off. The girl raised her hand slightly to wave back, the bangles jangling as they always did. Lily felt her stomach flutter. What was with her tonight? By the time they made it back to the common room, Remus was mostly quiet. Sirius took him from Lily and James as soon as they entered, cooing at the boy while he giggled. James slipped away before Lily got a chance to speak with him. She made her way to the stairs and slowly walked up them. During her ascent, she heard a growing bickering sound from her room. Of course, Mary and Marlene had been left alone. She hovered her hand over the doorknob, listening to the bickering between the two girls. God, she would never forgive James for not just letting them go. This week would be hell. Thanks. That's cute. That's over now. It's just the end of the chapter. It's not over. That's fun. I wasn't actually expecting that. It's really funny, but I wasn't expecting that. Okay, thanks for listening.